Chimpanzee medical practices. Animals show how to heal. Chimpanzees appear to deliberately seek out plants with antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties when they are sick or injured, new research shows. By documenting the amazing practices of these animals, the study authors shed light on the complexity of their behavior and also suggest that chimpanzees could help in the search for new drugs. For years, scientists have been collecting evidence of attempts to heal animals using various plants. Chimpanzees and some other species swallow the leaves of various trees to mechanically cleanse their intestines of parasites. Chimpanzees also catch small, winged insects, put them in their mouths to chew, and apply them to open wounds as a form of first aid. Recently, a male Sumatran orangutan was observed preparing his own wound medicine from chewed leaves and stems. In turn, dolphins rub themselves against antibacterial corals and sponges to treat skin infections. Many plants produce compounds that have anti-inflammatory and antibacterial effects. In a new study, scientists argue that chimpanzees seem to seek out such plants to treat their ailments. They reached these conclusions by combining observations of free-living animals with pharmacological tests of the plants they consumed. The results and description of the research were published in the journal PLOS ONE. For the purposes of the study, the authors of the publication monitored the health and eating behavior of chimpanzees from two populations in the Budongo Central Forest Reserve in Uganda. They spent 4 months in each of 2 chimpanzee communities. It was possible to closely observe the animals because the chimpanzees in the reserve are accustomed to the presence of people. Of the 170 chimpanzees in both communities, observers identified 51 individuals suffering from bacterial infections and inflammation, as indicated by abnormal composition of their urine, diarrhea, traces of parasites or visible wounds. For 10 hours a day, they followed the sick chimpanzees through the forest, noting what plants they ate and when, and, in particular, whether the animals went beyond their long-established paths to find and eat plants that were not part of their usual diet. An international team of scientists tested samples of all the plants eaten by sick chimpanzees for their properties. During their work, the researchers identified 13 plants that chimpanzees seemed to seek only when they suffered from health problems. Researchers also analyzed the scientific literature for reports of the identified plants being used in local medicine. It turned out that 11 of the 13 plants were used by local healers. What's more, chimpanzee medicine seems to work. For all 51 sick chimpanzees, self-medication was effective. Every individual recovered relatively quickly, said Elodie Freeman of the University of Oxford, the study's lead author. Laboratory tests of extracts from 13 plant species showed that 88% of them inhibited the growth of pathogenic bacteria, including 6 strains classified as the so-called escape group. This is a collection of drug-resistant bacteria that are able to escape the action of currently available antibiotics. Pathogens from this group are highly virulent and have numerous mechanisms of resistance to antimicrobial drugs, which makes them a serious threat. After spending months in the field observing chimpanzee behavior that led us to specific plant species, it was exciting to analyze the pharmacological results and discover that many of these plants showed high levels of bioactivity, Freeman said. The strongest antimicrobial activity was demonstrated by the extract from dead wood of the Alstonia bonea species. It is a large deciduous tree. According to researchers, the plant is well known for its medicinal properties throughout East Africa, where it is commonly used for a variety of reproductive, bacterial and gastrointestinal problems, as well as for snake bites, asthma, and vertigo. During observations, many chimpanzees were noted to be eating the dead wood of this tree, apparently to treat parasitic infections such as tapeworm. In one case, researchers observed an individual suffering from diarrhea venturing outside the group's safe territory to eat a small amount of Alstonia bonea wood. Analyses also showed that the bark and resin of the Kea anthotheca tree are very strong inhibitors of pathogens such as E. coli and E. faecium bacteria, which commonly cause disease in humans and are becoming increasingly resistant to treatment. The authors of the study observed at least 3 injured chimpanzees eating elements of this tree, probably to prevent infection. In turn, another individual suffering from a persistent cough ate the bark of this tree. 1/3 of all analyzed plant extracts also showed anti-inflammatory properties, and one of the strongest was the extract from the leaves of the fern species Cristella parasitica. Interestingly, the only chimpanzee the researchers saw eating this fern had an injured hand, leading them to speculate that the plant might help reduce pain and swelling. The analysis results suggest that chimpanzees seek out specific plants for their medicinal properties. The study is one of the first to provide both behavioral and pharmacological evidence of the medicinal benefits to wild chimpanzees of feeding on bark and dead wood. With antibiotic resistance now one of the major global health crises, Freeman suggests that observing chimpanzee medical practices could help us develop new and more effective drugs against resistant pathogens. Our study highlights the medical knowledge that can be gained by observing other species in the wild. It also highlights the urgent need to preserve these forest pharmacies for future generations, she said.